everyone, and welcome to our University Business Web Seminar here today, which is entitled Equip Students for an Equitable Future in the Workforce, which is brought to you by the generous support of our sponsor here today, Instructure. Now, before we get started, I would like just to share a few housekeeping items with you very quickly. If at any time you'll need any technical support during our webinar, please use the chat panel, which you can find on the lower right side of your screen. Then select on my name, which is Stephen Blackburn, and then just type in your message, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can, so look out for that. I'm also about to submit a phone number and access code in the chat that you can dial in if you want to listen in privately or if you don't have any speakers. So that will be appearing in this chat momentarily as well. We will also be welcoming any questions that you have here during the webinar with a Q&A session that will be happening at the end of the presentation. You can submit your questions by using the Q&A panel, which again, you can find it's on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Then send your questions to all panelists. If you currently don't see the chat or the Q&A panels, look again, it's on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Then just click on that little expand triangle, and that's located in front of the panel name, and that'll make sure to see if you have access to it. Also, the last point I'd like to make is that if you would like to access the webinar here today at a later time, you'll be pleased to know that everyone who is registered and all of you who are here now attending will receive an email with a link to the slides as well as an archive recording. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Elizabeth Miller, who is Regional Director of Canvas Credentials at Instructure. Hi, Elizabeth. Great to have you with us here today.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Great to be here. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen so that we can get started here. Let me tell you what I'm hoping that we can do today. This is a kind of a giant conversation. We're going to try to go just a little bit deep into really one part of it. I find in these kinds of presentations that really the most interesting conversations happen in the chat. So you should feel free to connect with people who are here. You should feel free to ask questions as we're going. We'll kind of try to pick those up mostly at the end, but I can be stopped remarkably, and really make connections that you'll be able to take outside of this presentation, because we're all working on a pretty big problem, and we're not going to be able to solve it alone or in silos or just in our own heads, which is where I live quite a bit. You're also absolutely welcome to connect with me directly after this presentation. So this is my contact information on the screen. That's going to be included. I think it's in the registration page that you got. So all of that is available to you, and would love to connect with you if it makes sense for you. I'm always looking for people who are thinking on this topic, how to figure out how to solve the big problem that we have right now, which is lots and lots of labor market demand, but a mismatch between roles that are being offered and between what job seekers can actually do. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my video right now so that you don't have to look at me while we think through just a couple of big questions. So let's start here. Give me a sense. We're going to do a quick poll. Have you ever received a digital badge? Simple yes, no. We're going to give it just a few seconds. And by a digital badge, I mean really a badge that you can that's portable and shareable, that has a bunch of data in it, that is carried with the image in the badge. So an open badge, sometimes that's called, but if you've gotten one, you've known it because it could live outside of the platform that awarded it. So maybe not a game that you played that you got a badge. With Duolingo, for instance, I get little badges when I do my lesson. And so we've got, okay, good. So that's really interesting. And Stephen, I'm not sure how to share those results. Are people seeing those results, or do I need to do something to share them?
Yes, they should be there if you're not
Okay, awesome.
seeing them. Are
That's
you
great.
seeing?
Okay, so I've got a
Yep.
36% yes and 61% no. So, 2 to 1 no's. All right, how about this? Then this will be interesting. Have you ever awarded a digital badge? And that could be you personally. It could be in your organization that is awarding badges. So interpret you any way that it kind of makes sense for you to interpret you. And that's a badge that may have come from um, uh, your LMS may have a built-in badging platform. You may have used what I think of as a commercial platform, certainly Instructure's commercial platform, which is now called Canvas Credentials, but used to be called Badger, is available for awarding badges. Maybe you were with the government of the Netherlands, which strangely has a national badging platform that people across the government in the Netherlands award badges from. Maybe you're one of those folks and have awarded badges that way. And so I think we've left that open, and so we'll get some results here. And okay, and now we're 3 to 1, right? 72% no and 24% yes. So I think that's really interesting because one of the big questions that we really want to answer today, and that you may have already answered for yourself, is why would anybody care about digital badges? What's the point? What is their utility for badge awarders? And 25% of you are badge awarders, and for badge recipients, so a third of you are badge recipients. What does it matter? And that's going to have to be a big question that we're going to answer, not only for this particular topic, which is how do we really connect learners to work opportunities, but it's a bigger kind of rolling question about generally how the digital ecosystem, oops, sorry about that, how the digital ecosystem is really going to function, and badges are a way. And you can see on the screen some of the organizations that we work with at Instructure that provide digital badges for all sorts of reasons. And so let me see if I can just reach a little bit into your own experience to think about why anybody should care about digital badges. So here's the scenario that I'll pose to you. Consider a skill that you currently possess, not that something you want to learn, but something that you currently exercise. It could be a skill or a knowledge or a competency that you personally possess that is fully portable. And what I mean by that is that you can exercise that skill in lots of different roles. So maybe that's a role similar to what you're doing right now, whatever your work is, or whatever your status is as a learner in some organization. And you could use that skill in your current environment. Maybe that's higher ed, or maybe you're in a corporate space, in a corporate learning space. Or maybe you're a ed tech vendor and you've got development that you're doing and sales that you're doing. So this is a skill that you can exercise obviously in this space again. And you could exercise this skill in a similar role, but in a different space. So my current role at Instructure is in sales, and I have had a sales role with other organizations that I've worked with Concentric Sky, which was Badger's parent company before the acquisition a few months ago. So I've been doing this for a while, and so I have skills that are portable into different spaces. All right, a skill that is portable in a role that's really much different than you've ever had heretofore. Could you carry that with you? And could you carry that skill into a program of study? So I'll tell you mine because we're sharing here. I am I'm a pretty good project manager. So I have done straight up project management. I have where somebody said go make this happen, and I've gone and made that happen. I use those project management skills in my current role as a salesperson. I've used those project management skills in roles as account and program managers with Teach for America and the Princeton Review. I've used that project management skill when I cook. Now, I've never been a professional chef, but I do cook a lot of kind of, family dinners, big things, and that requires a lot of program management. And of course, every time I enter a program of study for my degree, for any kind of professional training, then program management becomes a really big part of that because I've got to get things done and timing matters. All right, so do you have that skill in your head? All right. So this is the question. When you take that portable skill and you move into a space where you need to confirm with someone or another, maybe that's a current employer, maybe that's a future employer, maybe that's a program manager for a program that you want to get into. How are you going to describe that skill? And not just describe it, how are you going to describe it in the language of the audience you're speaking to? For instance, if I tell an employer that I have strong interpersonal communication skills, that means something different if I'm a line manager in a manufacturing plant than if I am an HR manager in a Fortune 500 corporation. The skill says communication, but how it applies, the audience that I'm speaking to when I'm describing how I possess and exercise that skill is significantly different. So how are you going to describe that skill? How are you going to prove it? I mean, technically, anybody can say anything on a resume. So how would you vouch for your competency? Who is gonna say, "Yep, that's right. They sure do possess that skill or that competency or that knowledge or experience." And then what format is that description and proof going to take? Is it going to be a line on a resume or a row on a transcript? How are you going to prove it? Because that becomes increasingly important. So this is my proposition to you. Digital badges are the way that you do that. Digital badges are the way that you can describe the skill in the language of the market that you're speaking to. Well, look at how you would do that with a badge. And digital badges are portable and can be shared in all sorts of ways. They're intrinsically verifiable, and their verifiability is becoming stronger and stronger with each iteration of the technology. Digital badges provide a really easy format for people to look at the evidence, at the verification, at the validation of the skills and competencies that a learner has. Since we're really talking about the world of work, it is increasingly important that people who operate in the labor market are able to share their knowledge and skills and competencies and experience in a stackable, portable, verifiable, machine readable data set. More on machine readability in just a minute. So my proposition to you is that if you are not already equipping your learners with digital badges, then you're missing an opportunity to provide those learners with the evidence of what they know and can do and have experienced. So when I went to college, I got a degree, and the degree was the signal that I held up to the labor market, but it was just a degree. Now, there was some information about that degree because I had a transcript that I could share, and I had certainly the issuing entity of that degree. So thank you, University of Texas. But there wasn't tons more that was available as information. So my degree wasn't broken down into skills, all the things that I had learned how to do, all the things that I knew, all the things that I had synthesized from all the knowledge that I had acquired and the work that I had had to do. But the world is different. It's just a different place. And more we're seeing organizations that are saying, you don't really need a degree, you just need to demonstrate to me your skills and competencies and knowledge and experience in a way that I can actually understand and verify and consume. So let me ask you this question. We'll do a little poll here. What's keeping you? And by you, again, take that as broadly or as narrowly as you'd like. Maybe that's your organization or your field or you personally. What's keeping you from awarding digital badges right now? And there's lots and lots of data points. I've just picked like 4 on this continuum. I think there's lots and lots of interstitial space here too. So I unfortunately you can't pick A and B, but never really thought about it, or we don't see the point, or we know we need to, but just can't figure out how to kind of get a handle on it all because it seems like a big thing, or nothing. You're doing it. You're already equipping your learners with badges. So let's see where that gets us, Stephen. I'm really interested in this result. That's so interesting. Okay, so we've got a pretty small percentage of this audience that is like, we're in, we're doing this, and so no worries for us. And then a whole lot of people saying, boy, I know that's a thing, but I can't really figure out how to get started. And I really think that some of that rolls up into my organization doesn't see the point of badges, because once the organization understands the compelling case, then then you're at the place where we know we need to. We just don't know how to get started. So I'm hoping today that I can give you some ideas about how to get started. But more than that, for the folks who've fallen into the A, B, and C categories of this answer, that you can start to make the case to your organization about why digital credentials are such a critical component of ensuring that your learners, that the folks that you're working with are equipped for the digital future of work. And you will be in exceptionally good company. So these are some of our corporate clients. There are lots more in the world. This is just the slide that I kind of carry around with me in a deck of organizations that are equipping not only and for most of these folks, they are equipping their internal clients. So they are upskilling, sorry, their internal employees. They are upskilling and cross-skilling their workforce. They are making sure that they are capturing in kind of a shareable way the skills and competencies that their current employees have so they can see where the gaps are, how they can move people into new roles or move them up, or just increase their flexibility and their utility, their value in the workforce that they operate in. Some of these organizations are also training their clients. So they've got clients that that purchase their software and need to be trained on it, or purchase their services and need to be trained and supported. And so they're awarding digital badges so that everybody can see kind of who knows what and who's connected where. And then we've got, as you might imagine, lots and lots and lots of higher ed. Now, this is just a few of our higher ed partners, and there's lots and lots of other higher ed uses in the world. Some of these organizations will actually take a specific look at what they're doing. And so you can get some exemplars of what's going on in the space. But for some of these organizations, again, they are training there's faculty professional development programs that are running that are carrying digital credentials with them. There is staff training and administrator training, so internally focused. Then lots of work with students, both in for-credit programs and in kind of the executive education space or the career and technical education space that may or may not be credit awarding, but is critical for people who are really trying to advance their own skills and may not have really the time or space to go back and get another degree or get a degree. So you've got lots and lots of exemplars in peer institutions if you're in higher ed, and lots and lots of exemplars with corporate if you're in a corporate space. These folks have worked through some of the things that you would need to work through in order to really start awarding badges to your system or to your learners or to your staff or whoever you're going to award badges to. And here's the good news. You don't have to create this all from scratch. Lots and lots of this work has been done. People have kind of puzzled through a lot of use cases. Why would we ever do such a thing? Who would we ever award badges to? What do we expect those people to do with those badges once they've gotten them? What is the ultimate outcome for us as an organization? And what is the ultimate outcome for learners? And what is the ultimate outcome for the general labor market where we all operate? So this is where we are, kind of by the numbers. Now, you'll see that this is a survey that was done by IMS Global, which has renamed itself to One Ed Tech. IMS Global is a standards body, so they hold a lot of technical standards and they administer those. That's kind of their role in the ecosystem. One of the standards, the technical specifications, kind of the rules of the road that they hold is Open Badges 2.0. We'll look at that in just a second. And so One EdTech has a vested interest in the open digital badges ecosystem. And then this survey was also sponsored by Credential Engine. We can talk about them. They've got a credential registry that captures, they've almost got 1 million credentials in their system right now. And a lot of those credentials are being expressed as open badges. So you can see the growth of badging from 2018 to 2020. Now, they only do this survey every other year, so they will do another one this year and we'll have even more data, but you can just see the growth. And I'll tell you that the pandemic and the shakeup in the workforce and in the education space and just all sorts of kind of tremors that have run through the labor market have expanded the use of open badges. I would say that we'll see 3 times this many in the 2022 survey because we've seen an explosion in the number of badges that are being awarded, in the kinds of digital credentials that are available to learners, in the companies that are participating, that are providing digital badges, that are vendors, and really thinking hard about how to make the whole ecosystem come together really neatly. So let's talk a little bit of nomenclature, because I think it's important as you're thinking about and talking with your organization about digital badges that you kind of, there's a little language that goes along with this. So let's talk about an open badge. Open Badges 2.0 is that technical specification. What that means is that it sets the boundaries and the rules for how any system, any piece of technology, any platform can award badges. It's a structured data set. So when I think of a badge, I am a teacher by training and trade. So when I think of a badge, I think of it as a digital data container. It has a pretty picture on the outside, and we're going to look at a number of badges as we continue in this discussion. But the pretty picture is only a little bit of information. Inside of the badge is an almost unlimited amount of data. So if I think about, for instance, a line on a transcript that tells me the course title and the grade that I got, maybe the completion date of that course, and that's what it tells me. So I get a little piece of information and not much more. A badge has a little piece of information on the outside and a huge amount of information on the inside. The fields here that you're seeing, some of those are required, some of those are optional. It just depends on your program and what the demands are. But once the badge is awarded, then that little digital data container snaps closed. It's baked, in the language of the engineers who think about these things in those terms, and is so secured. So anybody can see the information in the badge, anybody that the badge is shared with, the badge recipient, any employer that someone holds the badge up to, anybody that clicks on a badge in LinkedIn because they've seen it shared there, they can see all of the information in the badge, but they can't change anything. And the badge recipient can't change anything. It's secured and it's verifiable. So that's what a badge is. And Canvas Credentials is the platform we're talking about that my organization provides, but there are others. There are, as you saw, at least 12, and there's more in the world now than there were in 2020. There's lots of ways that you can award badges, but every platform that's awarding an open badge is using the same structure, the same rules, just like train cars on a track. Those train cars all have the same gauge. So the wheels are the same distance apart, no matter what the car is carrying, who built the car, everybody's using the same rails. It's the same thing with open badges. It is a technical standard. So this is what happens then once you award a badge. There are some things that are true about a badge, and as you are awarding them or you're thinking about how you might want to equip your learners or your workforce or your potential workforce with badges. Some things to remember: badges are persistent. That digital data container, when you award it, it lives in the world. It actually falls into the possession of the earner. And then the earner can do what they want to with it. They can move it around, they can share it, they can stack it with other credentials that they have. They've got all sorts of things that they can do with that, and it is their possession. So we are deeply committed to data ownership. And as we're really empowering and equipping folks to go into the labor market, it's critical that people own their own learning lives and own their own data lives. So data security and privacy are obviously incredibly important, and we have a deep commitment to those. But security and privacy without ownership is Facebook. And I don't think any of us really want that to be the model that's perpetuated. So these badges owned by the earner, persistent in the world. Badges are portable. They can be moved around, shared in all sorts of ways. They are shareable to e-portfolios, to social media like LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. They are shareable to more and more. There are applicant tracking systems and job posting sites that can take your badges and use those as part of a bigger digital resume. So they are independently verifiable. So badges are verifiable apart from the platform that awarded them. They're supposed to be. It's supposed to be easy for someone who's viewing a badge or a machine, some piece of software that's viewing a badge, to confirm that it's really an open badge, not just a pretty picture dragged off of Google, and that it really was awarded to the person who says it was awarded to them, and that it really was awarded by the entity that is displayed in the badge, and that it hasn't expired, and that it's all kind of true and real and good. So badges can be verified. They're stackable. We'll talk more about that. One of the big movements that we currently see in the education space is stackable credentials. People being able to pick up either a small or a very large stack of smaller pieces of learning that then kind of stack together into something larger and more meaningful. We'll look at some stacked credentials in this presentation. The data in a badge is machine readable. This is why that's important for you. I can read a badge content. I can click on the badge, I can see the image, I can read the content in it. But I can't read the content of 1 million badges. And the only way that you're ever going to be able to do that is by having some artificial intelligence, some machine learning that can look at a whole bunch of those little bitty data sets at scale and understand what that data means, and then how best to use it to hire somebody, to align somebody with a job role that they might not have thought they really needed to have, but that has become apparent because they've got a lot of the pieces of that job role. So machine readability of this data is critical. And then you can align badges to skills and standards, and we'll look at that a little bit more as we'll circle back past all of those bullet points, I promise, in this presentation. So this is how it works. There's an ecosystem, and you've already kind of identified yourself, some of you, as issuers, which often are educators. Sometimes they're companies, sometimes they're sometimes issuers are accreditation programs that are issuing badges. There's an earner, so that's, or a learner, or a badge recipient sometimes. There's somebody who's getting the badge, who's being handed it. And then there's a consumer. That's somebody who's looking at that badge and considering the data that's in it. And sometimes that consumer is a person. Sometimes it's a piece of software, honestly. Sometimes those people are called requesters because they're asking, tell me about the skills you possess, and then how do I know that that's true and real and accurate? And so those three pieces of the ecosystem kind of talk to each other in all sorts of different ways. And some of you are issuers and earners, and some of you are just consumers, like you just want to know kind of what's going on out there, and maybe you fall into multiple categories. So this really lovely little graphic, thank you, Badge Europe. However, I don't think it's complete because I really don't think that it works quite. I don't think those roles are quite as discrete as they appear in this slide. I think it's much more like this, that it's really, you've got consumers, which is lots and lots of folks that need to understand the skills and competencies and knowledge and experience that someone's bringing to the table. And you've got lots of earners, and more every day. I'll tell you that Walmart is going to award badges this year to 1.5 million US associates. And that's just one organization, a big one, but just one organization. And you've got issuers, and then there's overlap. And the overlap kind of comes in all sorts of different forms. So issuers that are also consumers, that are also kind of taking in that badge information and thinking about it and doing something with it. Organizations do that, higher ed, professional associations. This is not a complete list. Employers do that, are both issuers and consumers. And then there's software platforms that also do that. LMSs do that. Student information systems can do that, can both issue badges and consume them so that you really understand how to put somebody in a program, or what gaps that person has, or that group of people, or that part of the population has, that issue or institution could fill in. And then there's kind of consumers who are also earners, and there's lots of overlap there. So hiring managers are probably getting badges because there's all sorts of managerial training that you can go through that awards badges, and they're looking at badges and consuming that data. Admissions officers fall into kind of the same general category. Membership directors, accredited organizations, that is, organizations that have to be accredited by some other entity, some standards body typically. And often those accreditations are showing up in the form of digital badges. And then those accredited organizations are also issuing badges downstream. There are folks that they're just earners, students sometimes, are just earning badges, collecting them. Private practitioners, people who are really just off doing their own work and may not be doing anything else. So you've got lots of overlap. And I think the big lesson of this is that this whole ecosystem is interconnected in a way that that makes it genuinely powerful. So every one of those little colored rings amplifies all the others and increases the value and utility of the badges that are being issued, earned, and consumed. All right, so I'm starting to think that I may know the answer to this question already. But let me ask you this: what role do you and your organization play in the digital credentialing ecosystem? And it could be none at this point, and that's going to be interesting. It could be that you're only an issuer, that you and or your organization are only earners. It could be, and I suspect that this is going to be a much smaller group, that you're only consumers of digital badges, that you that you take in badges and you think about the content of them and you make decisions based on that content? Or do you really consider you and your organization to play multiple roles in that? If we had to categorize you, which is always a little tricky when you've got overlapping categories as we do. Good. All right. I love it. That's so I just find this fascinating. And so thank you so much for participating in these little polls, because frankly, it's interesting during this presentation for you to kind of see who else is here and kind of how people are considering themselves. But it's really interesting for me because I talk to a lot of people. I talk to people who have never awarded a badge, who haven't even considered it. And I talk to people who are literally writing the technical specifications, engineering the next phase of the technology. And then there's a whole vast continuum in between there. So thank you. I just really appreciate you that's data that I'm going to be using because I find it super, super interesting. So let's talk about connectedness and how connectedness, not only with different parts of kind of the roles, the connected roles, issuer, earner, consumer, but all of the ways that a digital badge could connect badge earners into all sorts of things. So this is a badge. This is a view of the badge. I'm actually going to step into this badge directly because I want you to see it live. And I want to talk about how badges can connect earners to skills that badge issuers can make the decision about what skills are reflected by the work that somebody did to get that badge, and how the badge consumer or the badge viewer can really understand more about what the earner knows because of those skills. So let me show you this badge live. So I've just gone live here. This is a public view of this badge. This is my my alma mater, so they get a lot of play in my world. So this is their executive education program at UT Austin, and this is a badge. Now you can see, I'm going to come back to this in just a second, but I just want you to see all of the content that this badge carries with it. It does have a pretty picture on the cover, and that badge image has some brand information that's interesting and useful. It has some program information. So it's a little bit tiny on my screen. I don't know how tiny it is on yours. Texas Executive Education. So that's an important piece of information. It has some information about the program that awarded this badge. So Strategic Decision and Risk Management. But then when you click on the badge, all this information opens to you. And it opens to you no matter what your role is. So if you're the issuer of the badge, you can see all this and go, yep, that's what we did. If you're the recipient of the badge, or the earner or the learner, you can open all this information and see it. And if the badge has been shared with you somewhere on LinkedIn, on a resume, in somebody's email signature, when you click on that badge as a viewer or a consumer of the badge, you can see all of this information too. So you can see that's a description of the badge. That's what it's about. That's the title of the badge, and this is when the badge was created, and not awarded, but created. And then these are the details. So this is the earning criteria. This is exactly what you have to do to get this badge. And quite cleverly, UT has pointed, this is a live link that's in this badge. Anybody can click this link, and if you click it, it goes to, I'll just show you, it goes to a Tell Me More About You page, which is a great way to collect information, because not only is this information, this data inside of this badge, visible to the badge earner, it's visible to anybody the badge was shared with, no matter where that sharing happened. Think about this. People share their badges with their peers. Their peers are the target market for this program. Whether this is an executive education program like this one, or it's a degree program at your college or university, or it's a management training program inside of your corporate entity, or it's a user training program because somebody has purchased some good or service from you and you want people to be trained in how to use that. This is all of this information is going to be able to be seen by that target market. This is more information about this program. And then there's two things here that I really want to make sure that we touch on as we're talking about connectedness, in particular to skills. This is a skills selection part of this badge that reaches in to a skills taxonomy that we use a labor market intelligence group called Lightcast. And Lightcast publishes a set of about 32,000 labor market driven skills. And when you build a badge with our platform, can't speak to others, but when you build a badge with our platform, then you can align that badge with skills that are derived from labor market demand. So risk management has apparently shown up in enough job postings, and Lightcast looks at hundreds of millions of job postings every year. Risk management has shown up, and so now it's part of their skills taxonomy. So that's the skill and that's its definition. These are skills that show up with it. So connecting that skill to other skills that are tend to be bundled with it in the labor market, connecting that skill with companies that posted for that skill recently, connecting that skill with job titles that posted for that skill recently. And then this is real-time labor market demand for that skill. So connecting that skill, connecting that badge through this skill to demand in the labor market. Now, there are a few job postings down here, and they're a little all over the place because they're really meant to be exemplars. So you can go see that skill kind of in situ. I also, though, could have connected that skill, and sorry, I've just got a little bit of I've lost a tab here. Here we go. I could have also pointed that skill instead of pointing it to that kind of overall labor market intelligence page, which I find that data fascinating. But if I just want to cut to the chase, I could connect that skill, risk management, directly to live job postings. And this is Indeed is reading my IP address, so it knows I am in Colorado Springs. And so I've got jobs that are close to me and jobs that are remote. And then there's kind of, it expands out from there. So I can, through the badge, connect to specific skills and then use those skills as a conduit to more. So I can connect through skills. I'm going to just give you just a little bit of background about these guys. Lightcast is the company that we've been talking about, and the fascinating work that they're doing. So let me recommend to you that you kind of go and see what's going on with Lightcast, because skills taxonomies are the way that we're going to be able to build a backbone that lives between education and workforce, specific job roles, opportunities. It's going to be through a common skills language. I will also recommend to you that you take a look at the Open Skills Network. If this is a particular area of interest for you and you really think, yeah, I totally need to start thinking about how skills kind of work in the world, then this skills taxonomy organization, which is called the Open Skills Network, and you can really take advantage of the work that these good folks are doing. There's some fascinating technology around the skills, kind of making sure that everybody gets a skills taxonomy that really makes sense for their industry or their space or their particular the roles that they play kind of in the labor market and the education that moves people into the labor market. So I just dropped a link into chat that is a link to the Open Skills Network. So let me just, I'll let you kind of put that in your pile of goodies to think about as we, like the next things happen. You can connect badges then, not only to skills, you can connect them along pathways. Let me give you an idea of this. This is a badge from the Mississippi Online Workforce College, which operates out of the Mississippi Community College system. And that badge, that little Cartesian coordinates badge, is not only a standalone, you can do it alone, but it also fits together with these other three elements in an intermediate math program. Now, most of the folks that are enrolled in these programs do not have degrees and are not on a degree path, but they do have upskilling and cross-skilling needs so that they can really kind of find their way into job roles, careers that are meaningful for them. So this is one of those, mechatronics and industrial automation technician. All of these elements, and there's lots of them. This is a very long, complex pathway, but Cartesian coordinates is right there. It's one of those elements. So once you get that little piece of this puzzle, then it counts, no matter what pathway you're enrolled in or that you want to step into. And so not only does that badge with that skill, Cartesian coordinates, connect you into kind of larger, more meaningful chunks of learning, intermediate math, it connects you to specific job roles, mechatronics and industrial automation technician, and it can connect you to employers. So that little badge, and my little screenshot broke, so sorry about that, but that little badge lives on a pathway that was developed and put together by an employer in Mississippi. Holmac is an employer, and they said, we really need for people to stepping into this job role, this assembly level 1 training, to know about Cartesian coordinates. So that badge, that skill connects to specific employers. And indeed, as we really, I'm gonna wrap this up because there's so much more that we could talk about, but that connection to employers is absolutely critical. So I want to show you just that some of the ways that a couple of other organizations that we work with are using badges to really connect to specific job roles. I'm sorry about that. I'm really going to get to this, I promise. To specific job roles, to specific learning, to specific employment opportunities, to specific career choices that people may not have even known that they needed. So this is that badge that we were looking at. This is the pathway that leads to it. This is University of North Texas. They have a data analytics certificate. And so this is the pathway that leads to that data analytics certificate. You can see that there's some real complexity here. And so this is a big program when you step into it. But a learner can see all of the components and how they fit together and lead to that job. This is Alamo Colleges out of San Antonio. So this is like the college, just the community college district that lives around San Antonio. And this is a learning pathway that they put together as they're really trying to get their learners to think about how they operate in the world. This is part of one of their international programs. And finally, I think I'll do one more, and then I won't burden you too much more with this, but this is Arizona State University, and they have a certificate in service experience management. So how do you operate in a service industry and really make your way as you're really taking advantage of opportunities to advance your own career, to advance your own learning. All right, that was a lot and it went fast and I waved my hands and you can't see my hands. So I think we'll, so I'm just going to look at the Q&A, and if you have questions or if you have thoughts, I would love to hear them. So David, that's so interesting. You're providing badges and certificates via Cisco NetAcad Academy. Okay, so I'll show you an example of, this isn't Cisco, this is CompTIA. So this pathway that's operating out of Eastern New Mexico University has courseware that they're providing, that the ENMU is providing, and then bundled with badges that are actually awarded, in this case, by CompTIA. So these guys, so the organization is awarding some of these badges, and they're preparing their students to go and get the certifications that are industry certifications. And they are bundled both of those kinds of badges on a single pathway. Now, this is our platform, so this pathway system is part of Canvas Credentials. There's other ways that you could do this, but this is how we do it. But these CompTIA badges, those aren't awarded by a Canvas Credentials platform. There's a third party, and CompTIA just uses a different platform to award their badges. but it doesn't matter. Remember, we talked about badges being stackable. That one of the reasons they're stackable is that they all have the same data structure. And so all of these badges that are showing up on this pathway and being awarded to learners fit together neatly. They are fully interoperable. What other questions do you have? All right, let me ask you this. What's your biggest concern? And the reason I ask that is that I was at the Badge Summit a couple of weeks ago at UC Boulder, and lots of people, practitioners. I was there with the Technical College System of Georgia, which has a big badging program that it's implementing right now. And there were, lots of big thinking going on in the room, with lots of different perspectives. And it was really interesting. The concerns that people raised, I didn't know that those were going to be the concerns that were raised. It was surprising. So as we're kind of having this discussion, if you're willing to share, I would love to know kind of what your biggest concern is about digital badging and the connection to skills and how that flows to learners and how issuers work and how consumers work. Okay, good. So this is great. So I'm just watching the Q&A. So Robert, let me answer this question. Offering master's degrees and specializations, be a select set of courses. Yeah, absolutely. So how you award badges is really a really flexible opportunity. So we make a platform available. It's called Canvas Credentials. That's the platform that Instructure, which is my company, makes available, and it lets you create and award badges in all sorts of different ways. You can directly award badges. So you can trigger the award of a badge directly from the Canvas LMS. We also have an integration with Blackboard. There are other integrations with other platforms, some of which I know all about and some of which I don't know much about, but you can automate the award of badges upon course completion. You can also award a badge. I'll just show you one since I'm right here. You can award a badge directly from most badging platforms. You can just award a badge one-off. That doesn't scale, but you can do it. You can award a badge from this platform in bulk via CSV upload. And so that means that you've got flexibility to be able to do that. From this platform, you could also award a badge via a QR code or a claim code. So you can hold up a QR code or give people a link and let them click it and pull the badge to them. So you've got opportunities there to award badges in a lot of different ways. Now so Robert, I think that answers your question. Our university is Canvas-based. Does this help us with badging? Absolutely. So I don't have my Canvas instance open here, but I would be happy to show you how that works, how you can automate the award of badges out of your Canvas instance. It's kind of snappy, I have to say. How does one get started? Beverly, I'm looking at your question. How does one get started? What companies offer badges? There are a number of commercial platforms. Now, I represent a commercial platform that you can purchase. There's also some free badging platforms out in the world. If you go to badger.com, then you can award badges free from that platform. It has some limited functionality, but it's really handy when you're really getting started. And then, honest to goodness, if you Google digital badges, all sorts of organizations will come up that can provide you badges. There are also badging platforms, like if you use a Moodle LMS, there's a little badging system that lives inside of Moodle. You don't have to have any other system. Again, it has some limits, some parameters set around it, but boy, it's nice if you're just going to get started. There are other platforms that have internally built badging systems. And so if you have specific questions about what you're using, what tech you're using, I would be happy to answer those. Canvas is easy. Blackboard is easy. Using industry provided certifications, David, like you said, you can take those badges that Cisco's awarding and bundle them together if you wanted to with other training that your organization is providing. I can talk about costs, so I'm happy to talk about that kind of offline and separately. Keith, let me get to your biggest concerns. I love this. need assessments, determining areas that are needed, wanted. Absolutely. So that question, there's a couple of ways to answer that. There's there are platforms that are really looking at job roles. So ONET is one of those organizations, and I probably can get you an ONET link just real quick here. Sorry, I don't have that open, so let me make sure that I can get you ONET online. So this is a great little tool. Not little, it's a great big tool. So if you don't know this platform yet, I would really take a look at it. It's got tons of government collected data on job roles and demand and how things are connected. And that is going to be a really handy tool. And I will drop that into chat so that you've got it. There we go. That's the ONET platform. So as you're really thinking about where does demand lie, this is a big tool that you can use to kind of look around at the world and see what's going on out there. And then I would really connect. I would connect with my employees. If I'm a corporation, I would connect with my students as they leave me, and I'm doing those kind of post-graduation surveys or those post-leaver surveys. Where are they going? What are they doing? What do they feel like they've missed in their formal education heretofore? And then I would, if you have the space, I would start to talk to employers in my area. So the big ones, like the big multinationals, have lots of reason to connect with with people who can provide education. They need a well-prepared workforce before they hire, and they need a well-prepared workforce after they hire. So I would do that. Determining career pathways from badges. Yeah, what does that connect to? And how do things stack together so that they really are career defined? I think ONET can help with that too. And then ensuring academic rigor for the coursework. That's absolutely the role of the education organizations that are providing either for credit or not for credit to matriculating students, to non-matriculating students. That the labor market is depending on education entities to provide that rigor, to be that those gatekeepers of what good looks like. So let me answer this question, Glenn. This is going to be the last question I'm going to answer because I really want to make sure that we get to this. What is Canvas doing specifically to enable an equitable workforce through this service, especially in terms of access? So this is what we're doing. We're working with organizations that have lots and lots of different market focus. So learners that they are really speaking to. UT Austin's executive education program has one kind of audience. The online workforce college out of Mississippi has really a different kind of market that they're focusing on. In particular, we're looking at how kind of the grain size of learning can be appropriate to the learners and what they need. So for instance, this logistics and distribution pathway that the online workforce college is providing, these courses are short. They're an hour to 2 each. There's a whole bunch of them that stack together. They cost about $10 a piece. So there's a low entry to get started. There's not a huge investment of either money or time, but really this is a way for learners to get equipped to do particular job roles, and that opens up ever more opportunity for them. So they can step from here into an associate degree program in the community colleges, and really start to take advantage of the training that's going to make sure that they have meaningful work and can continuously improve their own skills, just like we're all doing right now. So I don't know if that was an answer to your question, Glenn, and I would be happy to talk about that further with you. We are at the end of our time, however, and so I want to make sure that I'm being respectful of your days. Let me just go back and make sure that my that you have my email address so that you can contact me there. That's by far the easiest way to reach me. So feel free to reach out I'd be delighted to connect more directly with you. And I can't get to this slide. I don't know why. Oh, it's because I'm not looking at my slides anymore. There we go. I have too many tabs open, which is the story of my life. Thank you all so much. Happy to continue this conversation here, or as you need to get on with your busy days, to continue it really any way that makes sense for you and your organization. Thank you, Stephen, so much.
Definitely. Well, like you're saying, if there were any questions that we didn't get to today, I'm sure that our partners over at Instructure will be willing to get back to your questions individually after today's webinar. And actually, as I go through the closing slides in just a few moments, please feel free to continue submitting your questions if any come to mind. And I'll make sure that they're sent over to Instructure or Elizabeth directly so that they can be answered at some point in the future. But first off, thank you again, Elizabeth, for your time here today. Really fascinating subject. And of course, thank you to Instructure as well. And to you, our audience, I would also like to thank you for joining us here today. For those of you who particularly enjoyed what you saw, there are many more upcoming web seminars like this one that are provided by us at University Business, which is the leader in editorial coverage of news, as well as current issues and trends that are going on right now in higher ed. We have a wide range of readers who subscribe for free to UB, just like yourselves, and they stay up to date with us online in our newsletters and web seminars like this one. Also, if you would like to watch what you're seeing right now, or for those of you who believe, that what Elizabeth was talking about would be helpful to your colleagues, which I'm sure is the case, you will be pleased to know that our team at UB, we will be sending you an email later tomorrow. And in that email, it will include an on-demand recording of the web seminar, as well as a link to the slides. So look out for that. So with that, on behalf of UB, this is Stephen Blackburn. Thanks, everyone. Take care, be well, and stay safe. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.